Update on food storage here, and ever since YouTube disabled response videos a few days ago, it's really been goofy. But there was a new subscriber on my channel. I'll have to double check that. But one of his videos was about the food saver, vacuum packer, food saver type things. A lot of prepper people. These things ended up on a lot of prepper channels and stuff like that. I've owned a few over the years. This is the most deluxe one. There's a whole kit, so it could do jars and do a bunch of other stuff. Supposedly strong enough that you could pack clothing bags, vacuum pack clothing bags. And my experience with this thing has been kind of sucks. Okay, I really haven't had good luck with it. It might be taking a trip to the thrift store. I don't know, but I've really not had a good time with this thing. Try to get that open. Yeah, it doesn't have the bag dispenser in there. The vacuum thing is kind of lackluster. Doesn't seem to generate enough heat to really get a good, reliable seal on the bags. And when I looked at the type of sealers that are used commercially, I understood why. They're just a bigger, heavier duty thing. So I went to the Mormon Cannery. I've been going to the Mormon Cannery for off and on for about 6 months now, building up my stock on the stuff that they make available to the general public. And that's usually food staples. Here we've got like diced carrots. I think there's some dehydrated onions. Ingredient stuff, but not ready to eat type stuff. And so what you do is you supplement that with the Augustin Farm stuff at Walmart, which actually comes from a lot of the same people. Now, Mountain House is, these are sealed in plastic, and you can kind of tell the way that sealer worked on there, that, it was something that was like 3/4 of an inch thick. And what they hit that with some sort of a heat thing that pretty wide. And that's one of the reasons these things just aren't really, they're not getting what I want when it comes to sealing stuff. But at the Mormon Cannery, they do have another option available. One, they do have a commercial food sealer, but the only stuff they'll let you seal with it is the stuff that they have there. They do have a canning machine that you can check out, kind of like a library situation, that only does this size of cans. Okay, it doesn't do smaller cans, it does only these. And so the trick is that they will sell you these little oxygen absorbers for not much money, a few cents. I think it was 10 for $1 or something like that for those little oxygen absorbers. But here's where it gets cool. They have these super heavy-duty Mylar bags that you seal with a common household iron. Okay? It's a really thick, heavy-duty material. They say not to use it with liquids, but I've seen other people do these with some liquid stuff. The problem is that if liquid gets caught in the area that you're sealing, then you'll not get a good seal and you won't know it until you try to go open the thing later on. But these are really good, thick, heavy duty. It's Mylar and plastic, and kind of like a high-tech sandwich of Mylar and plastic. And you can seal it with a standard regular item. Standard regular household iron. And so the way I do it is I put it on a wooden table, and I just kind of stretch the end of it across the wooden table and give it a good hard seal. I've got a full 1.5 inch wide area that's sealed when I do that, and it seems to work just fine. Now, one of the things you can run into with this, and again, it means you're not having to buy any special equipment, normal, ordinary household iron. No, the iron doesn't melt onto the plastic, but I do use a non-stick iron when I do that. One of the things, though, you need to look out for is timing when you're sealing the stuff. For example, I bought the bulk beans and noodles this last summer when I was at went shopping at the Mormon Cannery. The bulk beans and noodles, the beans come like in a big sack, like a big dog food sack. So I repack them into these bags, and what happens is if you do that in particularly hot weather, the air is naturally expanded, right? So you do it in really hot weather. I did it in the little kitchen alcove here. Did it in a little kitchen alcove with the sun shining, and so it was really warm when I packed everything. And then I put the oxygen absorber in, I seal it up. As soon as I took it to the basement, it started to suck back down. Okay, that expanded air became a vacuum in a normal environment. So on 9 out of 10 bags, I end up with this effect. Okay, so what happens is the bag, once it's fully sealed, will actually self-vacuum. And it self-vacuums because you're taking advantage of the temperature changes. Now, if you can ever do your bagging at a high altitude location where it's high altitude and warm, then you have a tremendous advantage in this. So if you're, let's say up in Colorado or up in the mountains, you hit the summertime right, and then it's bagging season for the grains, the noodles, the dry stuff. For wet stuff, it may not be all that relevant. And they recommend against doing wet stuff in these, although I kind of got the impression there's a little bit of a wink and a nod situation with that. But if you want inexpensive and highly effective heat-sealed food storage, go to your local Mormon cannery, seek them out, get in contact with the LDS Church, what they have for their food storage situation, and just tell them the truth, that you want to stock up on your own food for emergencies, that you want to get some of their sealer bags, and they'll only come in one size, but you can cut them with a pair of scissors and do other sizes, and you'll eventually, ask around, you'll get to somebody who's willing to help. They're not always open. They're not open all hours, all days, that's for sure. It's usually just 2 to 4 days a week on alternate days with relatively short hours. But if you want a superior alternative to the vacuum sealers and the heat sealers, which kind of give you, especially if you've had some experience with them and it wasn't really all that great, check into these things. Super heavy duty, really good to go. This is noodles and beans that I did earlier in the year. I'm bringing them out in a little bit cooler weather just to check on condition of everything. It's pretty good. Now, one of the things that they are changing at the Mormon canneries now is they're going to take away the canning rooms. A lot of them have a room that's set aside where you can can a lot of your own stuff, or you can can the stuff that you buy there. There's been a gradual transition on that, where it used to be that you could use their canning equipment for whatever you bring in. Then they decided there was a bit of liability, whether or not there would be contamination to their canning equipment at their facility or contamination of the rest of the food there. So they went to the point where you could only can the food that you bought there. Now, why would you can the food that you bought there? To get critter-proof packaging. Okay, apart from the mountain house here, if you have critters that get into your storage food, which has happened to other people that I know, they're highly unlikely to get through the cans. Have I heard that rats can get in the cans? I've heard it, but I've never seen it. Critters can get into this stuff, and supposedly could chew their way into, like, let's say, tote bin containers. That, in my opinion, remains to be seen. But, play around with it. I kind of like 5-gallon buckets. I kind of like putting the stuff in these, and I'm putting it in 5-gallon buckets. There are some people that like to play with a single large Mylar bag in a 5-gallon bucket. Now, they're not from the Mormon Cannery. They're commercially available like that. The reason I'm not really into that is that once that seal is popped, you got to think about what you're going to do with the entire bucket full of stuff. With these things, if I'm feeding a group of people, I can develop a better idea of how many packs of what I'm going to unpack to make, let's say, the group stew. So that's how that goes. The canning situation in Mormon Cannery, though, has transitioned from only being able to buy the food you can there to you'll have to check the machine out and do it at home. They're not going to allow sub-packaging on site. What they are talking about, though, is having the cases of canned food delivered so that it will be right there on the shelf. Now, right now, it's not always on the shelf. What they do right now is you kind of pick it out ahead of time, and you may be asked to provide a little bit of labor in helping to can food which you are not taking. And it's not food bank, you still pay for it, but because it's a nonprofit without paid labor on site, you may be asked to do a little bit of volunteer work there or expected to. Don't begrudge them that. You're getting a fair deal on everything involved. Other advantages of getting the cans over the Mylar pouches. The Mylar pouches are kind of partially reusable. In theory, you could reseal them with an iron. Let's say you use half of one. As long as you were relatively careful about cutting it, you could reseal it. But that's all it's good for. It's a storage pouch. That's it. Cans of this size, you can make rocket stoves out of them. You can use them for planters. There's a lot of other things that somebody may want to use those for. Make dispensers and stuff out of them. There are some ways you can make water filters and things like that out of them. Little fire stove things. A lot of people have how-to stuff on how to make junk out of these things. But hopefully this will be a little bit of useful information for people out there. I wish I could post it as a response video to another one I watched last night, but it looks like YouTube isn't allowing it right now.